In music news this week, we have legendary Scum Dogs are celebrating a pretty big milestone with a giant prehistoric pet. Then we move on to a new festival that's been announced with a very stacked lineup up north, and a tour pairing that seems ripped straight from a 1980s metalhead's wet dream. All of that and plenty more for music stuff, so stick around, we're going to get into the details. Welcome, nerds, to the Clips channel. If you are new here, then let me welcome you to the Clips. This is a smaller portion of a much larger video that happens over on the main channel. It's a series I like to call The Week in Nerddom. This right here is the music section. We are going to be talking about music-related things, tours, new music, reacting to videos, just regular news in the music news section, all of the things. Super excited to have you here. Let's get into the news. Okay, so in the music section, let's talk about new music that has been announced or released this week. First up, we have Gwar. This is more than just new music, and I almost honestly put this in the comic book section just because the music section is quite large, but then comic books this week's is also quite large, so we're keeping it here. Gwar is releasing Return of the Gor-Gor, which is a multimedia experience on July 25th. This is to celebrate 40 years of Gwar. That is a weird thing to say out loud. Gwar has been a thing for 40 years. Wow. Started in the 80s. That just kind of boggles my mind, not gonna lie. I'm gonna stop saying that, I promise. Anyway, so it is not just a record. It is a record, but it's not just a record. It's also a comic book that they're releasing, or a graphic novel if you want to be pretentious about it. It's documenting the travels of their pet T-Rex and how he has returned to the fold. Gor-Gor is his name. The music that is being released with this is telling the story, but also the comic book is telling the story. They have released a single for this record experience thing that is called Lot Lizard is the first one that's coming off of this, and we're going to talk about that in the That Just Happened that's coming up. Also, speaking of That Just Happened, I'm a little behind on the edits there, but they'll all be up eventually, I promise. So yeah, Lot Lizard is the first single. This is 40 years with the Scum Dogs. Like, it's not quite David Brockie Scum Dogs anymore, but it still has that essence. Whether or not it's very strong essence still kind of remains to be seen. I guess that's up to the interpretation of the consumer, but yeah, interesting. Let's move on. Other new music this week is Byzantine, the new wave of American heavy metal band that honestly is a fair approximation of the genre if you're looking to describe it to somebody who is asking you annoying questions, or just like trying to communicate with your normie friends like, no, this isn't just metal, these guys are kind of in the same vein as Lamb of God. It feels similar. Anyway, they have just announced that they're going to be releasing their new full-length record Harbingers on June 13th via Metal Blade Records. First single on the record is called Floating Chrysanthema. That's a lot of syllables in there, which is out now. Again, we're going to be talking about that in this week's That Just Happened. So that is new records and new things in music. Let's talk about tours and festivals next. So first on this list is the big dog right here. Well, one of the big dogs. Honestly, we have some really big festival news this week, but we also have Judas Priest and Alice Cooper have announced that they're going out on tour together, featuring Corrosion of Conformity on like 99% of the dates. There is one date on this tour that will not feature Corrosion of Conformity. If you follow the link in the description, it will tell you which one of those it is, and you can also get your tickets for this show. It will be starting in Biloxi, Mississippi on September 16th, running through Houston, Texas on October 26th, and we'll be going up into Canada a little bit, but mostly just going across the US. So pretty cool there. Next is the other really big piece. We only have two technically touring things to talk about, but they're both gigantic. This next one obviously is the one that I'm the most excited about, and it is the New England Metal and Hardcore Fest has finally announced this year's lineup. It is pretty eclectic when it comes to these two subgenres. You've got Madball on there, but your headlines headliners rather, are Lorna Shore, Cannibal Corpse, and Kublai Khan. Those are big names. Kublai Khan, honestly, surprised they got such high billing considering who else is on this list, not the least of which being Shadow of Intent, as I said, Madball, who are really kind of the only ones holding down the hardcore side of this, but whatever. Also super notable is the quote-unquote final performance of Bury Your Dead. There's actually a news piece around that announcement, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, super great lineup for this year's New England Metal and Hardcore Fest. I really wish I was out there. The show is happening September 20th at the Palladium Outdoors in Worcester, Massachusetts. So if you are in the area around about that time, go get tickets, link in the description. From there, we have regular ass news to talk about because that's all we had for tours and festivals. So in regular ass news, we have Sight for Sound Initiative. This is our first story. This is music adjacent, kind of. So Pat Sheridan, who is the guitar player for Fit for an Autopsy, is also the director of partnerships for Nevin Eyewear. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. Nevin Eyewear has just announced that they've started this initiative with Pat, and there was another guy from the company that I didn't write his name down because, say it with me, class, I take amazing notes. So yeah, it's Pat and one of the other guys he works with at Nevin Eyewear. They are going to be in this initiative. Let me reword my thoughts. In this initiative, they're going to be providing touring bands, working bands with free eyewear. It will be prescription, sunglasses, or otherwise. If you wear it on your eyes and it is protective, I think that's the key here, because this is sort of an initiative to circumvent some of the cost that is attached to just being alive when you're in an industry that doesn't have any sort of healthcare options for you, unless you make a buttload of money, in which case you don't need the initiative. But so this is for working bands. So really any US based working band, and how they define working is you have to play a minimum of 75 shows a year in order to qualify for this. But if you are a US based band and you play at least 75 shows a year, you can follow the link down in the description, go to fill out the paperwork that they offer, and they will hook you up with some free eyewear. Prescription glasses, sunglasses, not just for bands either, but for the crews of the band. So if you have roadies that go out with you every time you go on tour, or every time you have a show, whatever, you have roadies, you have a stage manager, you have a tour manager, all of those people are going to qualify for this free eyewear. So that is freaking awesome. Just a small step towards the direction of legitimizing art as an actual career, especially when it comes to music as art. So that's pretty awesome. That's all I really got on this piece. Let's move on to the next. All right, nerds, before we go any further, as per usual, this is the season of the merch push. So go check out the link in the description and you can get yourself one of these gaming nerd shirts. This is the special shirt for the month. It is going to be active for at least 2 weeks. It did take me a couple of days longer. It literally took me like a day and a half longer to get up than anticipated. So it didn't go up until Wednesday when it was supposed to go up on Monday, but you know, things happen. So yes, gaming nerd, your specialty nerd, I think I'm calling them the special nerd shirts. So that's the month of April is this special gaming nerd shirt. I'm pretty proud of this design, not gonna lie. It's more than just the t-shirt like we have on the other ones. We also have the hoodie, we have stickers, we have a coffee mug, there's a metal water bottle so you can put your DUBBY in it and, you know, use that as it's not a great shaker bottle, but it works. So go check out the Generally Nerdy store, linked down in the description, so you can get your specialty deal. I will be running a coupon code. Hopefully I will have that ready by the time I'm editing this so I can put it on the screen. Otherwise we'll just talk about it next week. Either way, go get your special nerd gaming nerd shirt. Yeah, this is new territory for me in the designing of things, and I'm having fun with it. So go check it out, go get something while you're at the store, and let's get back to the show. Next one, and that is Weezer. Okay, so a lot has happened with Weezer since we last spoke. We didn't speak about Weezer last week. Just about a day, 2 days, I believe, actually, after the last episode went up, some craziness happened with the bass player's wife. So bass player, oh, I'm gonna lose it in my notes. Bass player Scott Schreiner, his wife, Jillian Lauren, was shot by LA police and then was brought up on attempted murder charges and was arrested and taken to jail. So what the hell happened? It's not exactly what you might think. It is kind of crazy, so don't get it twisted. This is definitely a bonkers story. Scott was not at his home at the time that this happened, so he was not a part of any of this. Obviously, he was with his wife when she was getting her shoulder patched up from being shot by the police. But there was reason for her, she was carrying a gun. Let me back this up. All right, so I believe it was Friday night. The police in the area around Scott Sheridan's house, in whatever the neighborhood is that he lives, were following a suspect who was, I don't even remember what he was a suspect of, because that's kind of secondary to all of this. He was running through this neighborhood. They were following him through said neighborhood. When they got to the Sheridan's house, or the report almost makes it sound like maybe they were at one of the neighbors of the Sheridans, because it didn't sound like it was the place of residence for Jillian Lauren. So she came out holding a pistol, pointing it at police, according to their police report, and the police warned her to drop her weapon multiple times. She did not. She fires. Again, it's kind of vague whether or not it was at police or if it was at the suspect that they were following before this went down. She fired at someone. After she fired, one of the reports says that she fired at them. One of the reports from the police officers that were at the scene said that she fired at them. Another report said she fired first, but didn't say which direction she was shooting. So it's a little bit murky here, but she did make the first shot and then was neutralized, let's say, by the LAPD. LAPD then took her into custody, again, charging her with attempted murder. She is currently out on bail for $1 million, which means she had to pay $100,000 for bail to a bail bondsman, assuming she didn't put up $1 million in cash or property, because I'm pretty sure California still does that with their bail bonds. So yeah, that's insane. That is honestly nuts. The suspect that the police were originally chasing reportedly has been taken into custody as well for whatever crime he is alleged to have committed. As this develops, because it is a developing story, we will be keeping tabs on it. Also of note here, Scott Schreiner did still perform at Coachella. Maybe we did talk about this last week, kind of in passing, because it was still very much developing, or it could have, honestly, I could be because I've talked about it with so many people at this point. Maybe I'm just remembering those conversations, whatever. Scott was, since he was not there, he had a couple of things to say to TMZ, which is kind of irrelevant, but the band Weezer that he plays for did still perform at Coachella. It was still a great show by all accounts. That you can go look up setlist.fm and see the songs that they played. They played some real deep cuts. They played a Master of Puppets cover. It was still an epic show. So very interesting turn of events. Again, as things kind of progress here, we'll be keeping tabs, and probably going to be a little while before we get a proper update, because the legal system moves very slow, especially when people have lots of money. So it is what it is. Let's move on. Next piece in regular ass news is a little bit of a tour update, kind of, but also very much regular ass news worthy, and that is A Killer's Confession has just lost their drummer. We talked about the fact that they're going on tour currently with Ventana, and I can't remember the other band, the opener, whoever the opener is, A something. They have had quite the week, according to their social medias. They had their van breakdown, so they have had to find alternate means to get themselves and their gear to their shows over the course of the last few days. And then in the midst of all that, their drummer just up and quit. And to replace their drummer Keegan King, they have now brought in Daniel Fox for the foreseeable future as their drummer. He's not just the replacement, he's the new guy. And it is noteworthy because Daniel Fox also, at one point, I don't know how recently, was in Mushroomhead. So we now have Stitch, Rob Thomas, Is that Stitch's real name? Did I just make the connection that Stitch's real name is also the name of the lead singer for Matchbox 20? Am I remembering this correctly? I might be misremembering. Either way, Stitch and J-Man are currently on tour, Stitch playing for Ventana. I saw a news report indicate that maybe Stitch was also part of A Killer's Confession these days. I don't think that's accurate. I'm pretty sure he's just doing Ventana, and then because they have a bunch of former Mushroomhead dudes on the bill, they're also doing a short Mushroomhead set with the former Mushroomhead dudes. Now they added one more to the mix, which is crazy, man. Yeah, so it's been a hell of a week for the dudes in A Killer's Confession. They still have about 9 dates left on this tour, and they are holding true to that. So if you are going to see them, definitely give them my love and go smash some skulls in the pit. That is what we have for Regular S News this week, which brings us to our suggestion for what the hell you should be listening to this week. We're going a little tech death this week, and that is Cytotoxin. The name of the record is Biographite. The lead single on this record is freaking amazing. If you're looking for some just brutal technical death metal, that is exactly what you're getting with this. I believe Blabbermouth gave it like an 8 out of 10, which it's kind of hard to get anything lower than that from Blabbermouth, but everywhere else is giving it at least that high. So great record, definitely not for the weak stomach. It is about a post-apocalyptic world where there's, cytotoxins in the air, like that's kind of radiation and things, and it's a banger. If you are into the heavy, go check this record out. That is your suggestion for the week. Thank you very much, nerds, for tuning in. If you want to level up your nerdy, geeky, pop culture knowledge, then don't forget to subscribe and do all of the things. Go check out the main channel, Generally Nerdy, for the larger portion. Again, you get all of the sections into one convenient video over on Generally Nerdy. The name of the show is The Week in Nerddom. Thank you for checking out this clip. We will see you next time. Before we go, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, probably here.